Hello guys, my name is SVB and I'm back with another video, and today we're going to be looking at which tank to pick in which situation and why. Now this is a part of my thought process series, and some of you may know this video already, but the original version was made quite a while ago, and it's quite fair to say that a lot of things have changed since then. With this being an update video, I'm going to try and not repeat information that I've given before. For example, in the original tank's thought process video, I spoke at length about what each tank's strengths and weaknesses are. That has mostly not changed, so if you want that kind of rundown, do check out the video which will be linked in the description. However, where things have changed, I want to talk about them at length. The most significant changes we've seen in Overwatch lately are to do with tank pairings and compositional strength. I want to talk through the three major styles of comp that we're seeing in the game at the moment and how each tank fits into those styles. These three styles are as follows: double shield comps, dive comps, and brawl comps, also known as rushdown comps. Using examples, I'm going to show you guys what each comp is, how to play it, and how it can be countered, with a particular emphasis on how the tanks fit into these comps. So let's get to it guys. Now last time I made this video, Sigma didn't exist as a hero, so I think it's only right that we start with him. Although a lot of people wondered if Sigma could be a main tank when he was released, he's most definitely an off tank, or hybrid at best. And the reason is as follows: his shield just does not provide enough protection on its own. It's not a reliable shield. It's not as big and durable as Ryan's, nor is it as predictable as Orisa's, where teammates can know where it'll always be and stand behind it safely. Sigma's can and will drop their shield suddenly, and that can leave players behind them exposed without warning. A better use for the shield is as a barrier against off-angle flankers or people your team can't contest. This is why you will see Sigma played almost exclusively alongside another shield tank, and this is where the double shield meta was born. When played with Orion, or more commonly an Orisa, Sigma's shield can be used to its full efficiency, which is as a backup shield and a mobile, angleable form of protection. Now, let me talk through why this comp works as well as it does. Although the double shield comp is named after and defined by the two tanks who are at the front, it's really made strong by the DPS behind it. If you watch any recent pro play, like the Mei Melee, you will see a lot of long range, stable and consistent DPS being put behind the two shield tanks. The reason Orisa and Sigma are strong, and the reason they're the go-to double shield comp, is because they're the most durable tanks in the game. Orisa has a Fortify, which basically makes her unkillable for a brief period of time. Sigma, meanwhile, has quite a few versatile ways to keep himself healthy. Firstly, the Biotic Grasp is good to protect himself from any long-range damage coming his way. Then of course, there's his shield, which he can redeploy and dance around if need be. And finally, there's his Accretion Rock, which is a great ability not only to stun anyone coming too close, but also knock them back. The other benefit of playing both these tanks together is that they both have the capability to put out a fair amount of ranged damage. Combine this with the ranged DPS behind them that I mentioned earlier, and you create a comp that's very strong at putting out a lot of pressure from distance and making it so that teams can close the distance without taking a ton of entry damage. To illustrate what I mean, I'm going to now show you a clip from the tournament that I've been hosting recently on my Discord. The tournament is called the Metal Cup, and it's meant to give amateur players a chance to shine. The players you're going to see play are around a mid-diamond level, and I chose this footage over, say, Overwatch League footage because I wanted to show you guys that playing like this is absolutely within the grasp of players in ladder. You don't have to be GM to execute these strategies properly. So, before the fight starts, let's take a look at these comps. On the side of the blue team, Pepega Pirates, we have the Orisa Sigma double shield backed by Torb and Ashe. Now 6 months ago, that would have sounded like a troll DPS duo, but after several small and incremental buffs, these are actually two of the strongest DPS in the game right now, and you'll see why in a second. The red team, meanwhile, is running a more traditional Ryan Zarya comp with the brawl DPS of Mei and Reaper. Now, as the fight begins, you can see that the red team who are playing the rushdown style comp are going in hard and aggressive with the speed boost. This is of course exactly how they should be playing. However, a halt goes out, and not only does it pull them back, but it also brings them closer together so that most of them are caught in the gravitic flux of the Sigma. This is really important. The power of the Orisa Sigma comp comes in consistently being able to pull off the combos using the halt. So if you're an Orisa player watching this, it's really important that you're using these to buy your team that extra space and also set up follow-up plays. As a Sigma player here, you want to make sure that you are following up on the halts, and that's exactly what the player Muro does here. Now, the flux is countered by the red team's beat, and then they throw a grab down of their own, catching most of the members of the blue Pepega Pirates. However, look at their response. They instantly throw a shield down in front of them and an immortality field behind, meaning that they're almost certain to at least live through the grab with that added form of protection. At the same time, they throw a Bob into the mix, which means that there's now also an additional source of damage pressuring the enemy team. Now as the Graviton Surge wears off, the red team's Reinhardt Grant lands a big shatter, and you would think that most comps would be dead to rights under these circumstances, but not this one. Looking at this frame, you wouldn't think that the blue team could pull this back, But there's 3 key characters you need to take a note of here. The Ashe in the background, her Bob, and the Torb turret, though the latter 2 are not really characters. As I press play, just watch them in the background put out an absolute ton of damage uncontested and swing the fight for their team. This is the strength of this comp, and why it so often beats rushdown/brawl comps in the current state of Overwatch. No one in the red team style of comp will ever have range, meaning they can contest faraway turrets or DPSs like Ashe easily. So as the double shield comp, if you can just keep kiting and giving space between your backline and their front line, your backline will put out so much damage that no amount of heals and shielding will keep the brawl comp alive. And if you remember, this is why having both Orisa and Sigma, who are very durable characters, is effective, because as the dust settles, you can see they are both able to survive and come out swinging. I'm going to show you now another quick example of the same comp played on King's Row. At this time, the red team, New Element, are playing 2 shields, but as you can see, their DPS are still very short range and brawly, thus, this is really a version of the rushdown comp. Once again, they start to push in, and a halt comes in. Not only does it pull them back to slow them down, but it also forces them into a spam angle, which means that the red Ryan shield breaks easily. Now, seeing that there's no shield available for protection, the blue Ashe throws a Bob into the mix. This puts the red team under a lot of pressure, and they decide to go aggressive as a result. After all, at this range, their comp can't do anything, so they decide to just go ahead and fight. They managed to get in and slam a few characters down with the Shatter, who walked in front of their own shields. But again, note the really key characters here. Firstly, you can see that the BAP and the Ashe are still unscathed and a bit back from the rest of their team, meaning that they can both do a buttload of damage and healing without any pressure. Then, the Sigma is still up, and he pops a Gravitic Flux to keep the red team from being able to follow up properly. And now, remember that Bob is still in the back here, pumping out damage from behind, and all those elements combine to make this an impossible fight for the red team to win. So, if you're in comp, or you're watching a pro game and you hear someone talk about kiting another team, this is the kind of things they mean. Using abilities to pull or push enemies away in order to keep your squishy but powerful damage and healing characters far enough away that they can continue to do work while your frontline focuses on buying time and space. Now, some of you might note at this point that this video is supposed to be about which tank to pick and why, and I'm here talking about Ashe and Torb and BAP and how they play into this whole thing. And the reason for that is simple. As a tank, your game knowledge is your key currency. There's a reason that good tanks are so hard to find and why comps are almost always based around the tanks played in them. Because tank players have to understand everyone's role in the game. To be a good tank, you need to understand exactly what your teammates behind you need from you and then do your best to give that to them. So, I feel it's important to explain that if you want to play on Orisa or Sigma, that these are the kind of comps you want to play them in, and this is how the comp works when done well. When you get into your games, it will be on you to make these comps tick. So, with a little bit of coordination and good play, a double shield comp can very easily beat what has till now been the meta and ladder favorite Ryan Zarya Brawl comp. But, if you do still want to play that rushdown style, and as a Ryan main I wouldn't blame you, then here's how you do it. It's fairly self-explanatory that if a double shield comp is best when it's keeping its distance and kiting, then a double shield comp that lets the enemy get too close will not do so good. And that is the key to breaking it down. Here's another example from the same game on Rialto, except this time the rushdown comp is going to win. As with all these examples, we have the same few characteristics cropping up again. Brawl team moves in, and a halt goes out to try and stop them. This time though, there's a few key differences. Firstly, notice how much closer the double shield comp is this time. They're only a few steps away and well within reach of the brawlers. Secondly, notice the sneaky outline of a Reaper here who's gonna get into the backlines with the Death Blossom. Now, the red team uses the Reaper as an initiator, and when he pops the Death Blossom, they decide to hit the go button and get right in the face of the defenders. The Immortality field goes down to prevent too much damage from the Blossom, however the Blizzard chucked in is going to be too much to deal with. Note as well, this wall that goes down, which not only means that half the blue team can't escape the Blizzard, but also means that importantly, they can't run away from the Brawl. This is why, despite the gradual nerfs, Mei is still a super strong character and in many ways an essential part of the rushdown comp. She's the only character in the game that can trap enemies like this, and a good wall which isolates one or two characters of the enemy team away from their allies is almost always going to be your main way of initiating a fight, and also a great win condition. If you get within reach, your comp just has too much power. It will easily outmuscle a double shield comp, but if you keep getting kited or pulled around, you will get no value from your short range characters. Now bear this principle in mind because it's the same thing that's the key to the rushdown match against dive comps. If your rushdown comp is able to take a fair, in-your-face fight with a dive comp, they will always win. Let me show you an example of this again. On this fight in Lijiang Tower, the blue brawl team gets themselves on point. Now the mistake that the two dive tanks of the red team make is that they become preoccupied with fighting the other tanks. Remember, in a straight tank v tank fight, Ryan Zarya will pretty much beat any other tank duo. They just output too much damage together. So, notice that despite the pressure, both tanks are going to come out of this perfectly fine, especially because their Moira is tucked safely behind them, healing them both easily, while the soldier here goes and picks off the Mercy. Theoretically, with the soldier dead, the Pharah has a lot of free reign, but feeling pressured by the fact that the point is ticking away, she flies onto the control area to try and contest. But that's the same mistake that the red tanks make, and that plays right into the hands of the Rein Zarya. At this kind of range, the Zarya is too deadly, and she melts everything easily, and this fight is won quickly. If you're a dive comp, the key to winning engagements is actually patience. You might think that dive comps are all about go go go, jump right in, but they actually require a lot of discipline, and importantly, some good setup and calls. Let me show you now an example of this diving done right. On Hanamura here, the blue team are running a very brawly comp. Every single character here has very short range but high effectiveness in close quarters. Theoretically, this is a nightmare to dive. They also use a sim TP to get straight onto point, meaning the defending dive comp is now under serious time pressure. But now, watch how patiently the dive team approach this. The Winston comes in from the right side of point, while the D.Va approaches from the left side high ground, already creating a crossfire for the brawl team to deal with. This is very important with dive comps because if they all run in from the same angle, it makes it much easier to just shield one side and deal with them together. Notice here how the Winston jumps away, making sure to stay away from the Rein's hammer range, and in the chaos, the D.Va is able to pick off the Moira who doesn't have that Rein's shield to protect her. Then, as the Rein goes to contest the Winston, he jumps away again, this time going for the backline of the blue team. The D.Va jumps in to help, and although she gets pinned, the job is done from the side of the tanks, because again, look how disconnected the blue team are, and look where their attention is focused. On top of that, they don't have a shield for protection either. This gives the chance for the Tracer to run in and quickly assassinate the Brigitte, who ordinarily easily counters her, but right now isn't paying attention. Now both healers are down, which means that the brawl comp has no sustain left in this fight. This is generally how dive comps thrive. They pick off healers first because they're easy to burst down, and then they can much more easily overpower the remaining members, even if they lose some of their own in the process, because they still have healers and quite often damage dealers alive. That's exactly what happens here. Both tanks die in this dive, but now there's an Ashe set up on the high ground who's doing lots of damage, and an Ana on the balcony high ground just firing away without any pressure. By the time the blue tanks turn and look around, they're left alone and helpless, and they're being mobbed from all sides. Even though they're in a tight small room just like they want to be, they actually have no chance of winning. For a dive comp, this is the exact same process you need to counter double shield comps. Again, we're going to see the same dive players play on the same map, this time against different opponents and a different comp. A lot of people might look at Rein, Orisa, Ashe and Junkrat and think, that's too much damage, we just can't dive that. But again, the good execution and a bit of poor response from the blue team, which you will always get in your ladder games by the way, means that the dive comp wins this fight with ease. The red team tanks start by bypassing the annoying Hanamura choke point with the use of their mobility cooldowns. From there, they drop onto the point to force the blue tanks on there with them. But this is all part of the trap. In the background, this has bought space for all the other characters of this dive team to get through and get in position. The minute the Rein and Orisa come to point, the Winston jumps out of their reach. He goes straight for the character with the most pick potential, the Ashe, and even though she has a Mercy pocketing her here, the Tracer coming in from the high ground provides too much burst damage alongside the Winston. By the time any peel can come in, the Ashe is dead. You can also see now this Widowmaker shot come in, and although she doesn't get the headshot pick, the angle is set up for her to do damage for free, which she will do lots of in this fight thanks to the engage from the tanks. Now having got one pick, the Winston goes back to point to draw the Reinhardt's attention, all while maintaining a safe distance. The D.Va gets slept, but she's not being focused because both the Junk and the Rein are looking elsewhere. Now, because both healers are looking at that D.Va, the Winston is able to finish off the Junk easily, who also took damage from the initial dive. Then, as the Mercy goes to res, she gets pounced upon not only by the Winston, but the Tracer and the D.Va, and the finishing blow from the Widowmaker, still sitting pretty on the high ground. Finally, the blue team's Ana goes down, and then again, it's just a matter of cleanup with the dive team who have too many sources of damage and pressure left alive. So to summarize guys, the three main styles of comp that we're seeing right now in Overwatch are Rushdown, Double Shield, and Dive. These are not completely definitive, and you will see variations played all the time, especially in ladder, but these broad terms help us understand the win conditions of these comps, what they generally want in a fight, and how they should or shouldn't be played. Double Shield comps are usually formed with Orisa Sigma, with some strong range DPS behind them. You can play Double Shield with Orisa Rein, or Sigma Rein, and if you do, it generally means you want to be a bit more aggressive and have the Reinhardt try to get lots of cleave damage in and build fast shatters, while he exploits the protection of having an additional shield. However, what this does is sacrifice the range damage and the ability to kite and survive more easily. Double shield comps generally work best by keeping their distance and making sure the enemy team pushing in can't get into their effective range. The set combos and CCs, particularly those of the tanks, are the tools you'll use to make sure your backline stays safe and far away, which should allow them to output maximum heals and damage. Rushdown comps, meanwhile, are short-range, brawly style comps, usually spearheaded by Orion Zarya. They tend to play with characters like Mei, Reaper, Doomfist, who like to be in confined areas and output lots of damage. These comps rely on fast rotations and quickly closing the distance, which is why Lucio's so key to them. If they get in close or into a tight narrow room, these comps will almost always outpower any other comps because they just have too much damage swing for swing. However, if this comp gets flanked or kited or split apart, then it becomes extremely weak. A D.Va mixed in instead of a Zarya means that you give up the damage output that a high charge Zarya brings, as well as the bubble combos with Rein, but you sub in the ability to contest flankers much more effectively, which this comp otherwise will struggle to do. Finally, we have dive comps, which are generally run with Winston D.Va, but can also be run with a Wrecking Ball instead of one of the others. These comps rely on coordinated jumps onto one singular target to quickly pick them off, while making sure you stay away from the frontline characters who can out DPS you, such as Rein, Zarya, and Hog. These comps require good setup and patience to be truly effective, and if you start trying to brawl on point with a dive comp, you will definitely suffer. Now, as we get to this conclusion, keen observers, or Roadhog mains, will have noted that I haven't spoken about our chunky hook machine. Unfortunately right now, Hog doesn't have a strong place in any one comp per se. He's not the go-to pick for any style of play. However, what he is very good at is being used as a response pick to something the enemy is running. Roadhog obviously is still very good at stopping dives because he can burst down Winstons and D.Vas with his shotgun and also hook divers away from his backline. If the enemy team is running a particularly annoying Winston or maybe a Wrecking Ball, Hog is a great pick. He can also work very well in main tank less comps, which rely on just going for picks while playing very split up. However, he's not so strong with Orisa anymore because Orisa's shield nerfs means that she offers very little protection of her own. The Halt Hook combo is still great, but if you compare it to the double shield comp, the two shields will block the Halt Hook very easily and then also break your Orisa shields very fast, while still having an additional one of their own to cycle through, which means that in the long run, you're just definitely going to lose out on value there. And that's all I got for today, guys. Hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you enjoyed the update to the Thought Process series. I know it's a series you guys really liked, and I wanted to give it a really thorough revision to try and reflect how the position of tanks have changed since I last made that video. One quick plug is that if you've enjoyed the footage from the Medal Cup, then I'm going to be hosting it again this weekend on Friday and Saturday, 8 PM British time, 3 PM EST, so come on down and join me live on Twitch, where I'll be commenting the games with some special guests. As always, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons and my Twitch subs who do the awesome job of supporting me, and if you liked what you saw, then please do consider signing up as well, because these videos take a lot of time to make and it will really help me keep doing so. But that's it from me. I'll be back before you know it with another video. See you guys soon.